Hey, Zane here. So, why do low-calorie diets fail? Simple. Your body is adapting to the lower calories by reducing your basic metabolic rate. Okay, so your basal metabolic rate is your metabolism. Okay, it's what keeps your organs moving, your heart pumping, your liver working. Basically liver, heart, brain, and kidneys really make up 70% of your calories right there. So that's all going to drop to adapt to. Let's say you drop calories by 30%, which is typical with a low-calorie diet. Over time, your metabolic rate is going to drop. So you're going to be lethargic, tired, cranky. You might be a little cold. You might feel some sensitivity to cold, even when it's warm outside. You might just feel a little cold because your metabolic rate's down. And you're going to be kind of cranky. You're not going to be fun to be around. You're going to be walking around with RBF all the time, Not fun. Not fun. And it doesn't work because then when you bottom out, and it reaches you're on this low-calorie diet, it's not working anymore, and you're eating this way, but it's no fun. It's not even doing what it's supposed to do. So you go back to your normal diet, and guess what? The yo-yo effect, right? Because you go back and go back up, and then you put that weight on, sometimes more, even faster than when you put it on initially. So that low-calorie diet's just really, it's killing us. And we've known this for decades. Ansel Keys, I'm not a big fan of Ansel Keys. He was the low-fat guy. Did an experiment in the 50s with, it was called the Minnesota Starvation Study. Lowered, a large group of men, lowered their calories by 30%. It was down to 1,500 calories. Sure enough, their metabolic rate dropped. They felt cold, lethargic, hungry all the time. No fun. No fun. And so we know that's what happens. Okay. Biggest Loser, another great case. Same thing. They dropped their calories by 30%. They were on like a 1,500 calorie diet, give or take. Multiple hours of exercise. So we talk about eat less, move more. If that worked, it would have worked on Biggest Loser because they're working out 3-4 hours a day easily. With a lower calorie diet, what happened to them? Yo-yo. And then if you saw that article in New York Times, I've posted about it before. Most of them, even after the show, still have a lower metabolic rate than someone of their same size and height and sex. It's like 300 or 400 calories a day lower than it should be by all the estimates, by all the calculations. That's painful. That's hurting them. That's why most of them have gained their weight back. That's why I don't have reunion shows, because they've all gained the weight back. Low calorie, eat less, move more, doesn't work. As opposed to a low carb diet or even implementing some sort of intermittent fasting. Low calorie is not meant to, low carb is not meant to be low calorie. Still eat multiple, your adequate calories. You just eat less carb, and then insulin comes down and you have more access to fat stores. You've heard me say that before. Intermittent fasting, nothing to be scared of. Whether you do a compressed day of 8 hours a day of eating, your eating window, from 11 to 7, okay, and the rest of the time you're not eating, you're fasting those other 16 hours, or you do 24-hour fasts a couple times a week. Very effective. Metabolic rate does not drop. You actually, our bodies actually release more adrenals, to keep our metabolic rate up during the fasted period, to basically as a survival mechanism. So that if we're without food, if we don't have food, it allows us to go out and get it, have the energy to go out and get it. So in the studies showing 4 days of continuous fasting, metabolic rate actually went up by about 10 or 12%. Increased energy, go find some food. And when they tested alternate day fasting over 22 days, no drop in metabolic rate. So metabolism's not coming down, because when you're not fasting, you're eating adequate calories. So in the days you don't fast, if you're doing a 24-hour fast, the other days you're eating an adequate amount of calories. Okay? When you're doing the 8-hour window, you're eating adequate number of calories in those 8 hours. Keep the metabolic rate up, but it's feast to fast, to feast to fast. So that is how our body really is the most responsive to keep the metabolic rate up, but allowing for fat to be burned. Because when you're fasting, insulin drops and more fat is accessible. When insulin is down, you can release fat. Insulin is up, you're not releasing fat. So more fat is burned. The stored glycogen or sugar that we store in our liver is burned off, and in some of the muscles if you're active, and then you're tapping into fat stores. So it's much more effective at tapping into fat stores, lowering insulin, which is, and improving insulin sensitivity if you're worried about insulin resistance, being pre-diabetic or diabetic. That really has been the most effective method for reversing type 2 diabetes, is low carb, high fat diets, or low carb, high fat combined with fasting protocols, like Dr. Jason Fung, who uses this in his IDM program, uses some fasting with low carb diet. Dr. Sarah Hallberg she's a medical director at the weight loss clinic at the University of Indiana. They're reversing type 2 diabetes as well with a low carb, high fat diet. What's her advice? In her TED Talk, it's called Ignore the Guidelines. So ignore the dietary guidelines about saturated fat, too much fat in the diet. Not the case. It's killing people. To tell them, keep giving them this advice. She's saying lower carbohydrates, low as possible. Use fat for fuel. Moderate protein, not a super high protein, moderate protein. They're not only improving or help people with their weight loss, but reversing type 2 diabetes. So it's working without medication and helping people get off of those meds to control their insulin, because their body, it's a dietary disease, using diet to reverse it and cure it. It's amazing. It's a shame we don't see more of that in the news rather than all the crap we do see. So if you have any questions, post in the comments below. I'm sure this could stimulate some questions, because it's the opposite of what we've been told for many decades. Feel free to post them below. If you know someone that can benefit from this, tag them in the comments, or please share. I'll talk to you later.